Not Nerd Podcast, episode 298. Flick my wrist in the general direction.
Welcome to the Not Nerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we are here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello there, sir, and good morning, afternoon, or night to our beautiful listeners who may be listening anywhere in this fine, wide world.
I'm sure it's morning because the time difference. I was going to say it's morning because that's when we post it, but that is such a geocentric view that all of our listeners are in the same time zone, which we know is not the case.
Time zones are a fallacy. The world is flat, and the sun is carried by a chariot pulled by a horse.
Yes, well, before we go too far down that road on our chariot, let's get into some follow-up. I'm pretty sure we talked about this quite a while ago, but it looks like there's been an update to iCloud 12.5 for Windows with iCloud Keychain Password Manager app.
Wow.
So that's a whole lot of words for if you use iCloud Keychain on your phone, any Apple devices you have, and you also use a Windows computer. If you update your iCloud on there, you can use your passwords with Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. Which I would guess means that it'll work for, like, if you use the Brave browser that we recommend, that you would be able to install that extension with the updated iCloud, which I think this is really great. iCloud Keychain is really good. I use LastPass because I am so multi-platform, but if you're, say, more of a casual user, I think this is a really great solution for storing your passwords and thus being able to use unique, strong passwords for all your different logins.
Yeah, and recently we heard that the 1Password password manager for typically for Mac, and then they expanded into Enterprise, into Windows and all that stuff. They've stopped some development on their Mac platform because it's too hard to make the app, and so they're doing kind of a hybrid Electron app or whatever. And that got the ire of a few people up, and so they're like, "Oh, 1Password isn't supporting Macs anymore," which is not true.
Yes.
But this is just another alternative. The iCloud Keychain, it's getting better and better. So maybe someday, LastPass and 1Password won't even be needed for Mac users. You can just use the built-in Apple password manager and go about your life and be happy and be secure. And I listened to a podcast or watched a video or something. Apparently, of all the Google users, only about 2% of them use like two-factor authentication to secure their accounts and stuff.
I think, was it Twitter? I thought the one that I had heard that, like, with Twitter, 2.5% of people use
Twitter?
The two-factor authentication for their accounts. But
whatever it was, the point is many people just don't really put any effort into security. So if you're going to do anything, the very minimum would just be use the built-in Apple Keychain to store your passwords.
Yes.
And then you can leave that little piece of paper behind or lock it in your safe instead of sticking it on the screen of your computer.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of methods that I come across when dealing with people and their computers. But the most important is to use those different passwords because we see a new breach every week or so. And then to the two-factor authentication, if it's an important account, please get that set up. And if you need help, ask us. But
Sure.
There are some really good ways to do that to add some extra security to those accounts that need it.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking last week about Twitter's redesign and the new font and some of the changes they made. And this one's an article from TechCrunch. Twitter's web redesign isn't as accessible as it should be, experts say. So alongside the font, just some of the colors that they used for, like, the follow button and some of the different buttons. It boggles my mind that a company as big as Twitter doesn't have at least one person that their sole job is just to make sure that it's accessible for, the American with Disabilities Act and making sure for colorblind people and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't know how this gets put out there in the world and doesn't get found in testing, that whether or not it's giving people headaches or not, but just, to do a major redesign and not think, oh, are people going to be able to tell that, those are different colors there?
Right. Yeah, it does boggle the mind. It's like, who's driving this ship? People are asleep at the wheel. They don't even consider. But they're not hiring us. They're not reaching out and say, guys, detail-oriented people, let's get on this. But
yes,
who knows the ways of big tech companies?
Yes, and it does say in the article, Twitter far exceeds the minimum contrast standards set by the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, which provides recommendations for making websites accessible to disabled people. But web accessibility isn't one size fits all. While some users may need a high contrast display, others who suffer from chronic migraines might require a more muted experience. Research has also shown that dyslexic people tend to read faster when presented with lower contrast text. So it's a never-ending battle of making things accessible to all, but somebody the size of Twitter should be able to figure that out.
Just make it so people can choose their own background color and font color and be done with it.
Yes. This next one, Facebook adds Photo Bucket and Google Calendar to its data portability. Now, we've talked a lot about data portability. This is the idea that you should be able to take your content from one service and move it to another if you choose to leave the service or just want to back it up. I was surprised to see that Photo Bucket was still a thing.
So tell me about this. How is Facebook involved with Photo Bucket and Google Calendar? And I don't understand. Are they going to allow you to dump your photos into these services?
Yeah. So they work with several other services, and so they've added Photo Bucket, so you could take all your pictures and with a click of a couple buttons move them out of Facebook into Photo Bucket, which, 20 years ago, Photo Bucket was the place. That was where it was like Photo Bucket and Flickr were the two places you could put all your few photos that we took at that time, because we didn't have smartphones with amazing cameras, but they have their data transfer project. And so then the Google Calendar is like all of your events and stuff that you have in Facebook. You can move it there. You can already send your photos to Google's own image storage service, Google Photos, as well as Dropbox, Blogger, Google Documents, WordPress. So it's this continued progress of allowing you to move your stuff in between services, which I think is a good thing. Yeah,
it's interesting. Hopefully Facebook continues to play nice with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It only takes one thing to tick them off until they take over.
Yes. But you know what never ticks anybody off? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
I don't know about that. We shall see. The jury is still out on that. Well, this is a quick and dirty one here. And a lot of people probably know this, but I think it's a good reminder. And this goes back to, this is an iPhone tip, by the way. And I've tested it as far back as iOS 12. You know how in the middle of your iPad or your iPhone, you can swipe down and get the little spotlight feature where you can search your apps and all that stuff? I just wanted to remind everybody that that's also a good place to do a quick calculation. You can just swipe down, type in 20 times 3. You don't even have to do anything else. It just shows the result right there on your screen. Then you can just swipe up and get back to what you're doing. If you tap the sum of your calculation, it will take you to the calculator app where you can, continue your process of calculating. But if you just need something simple, I don't know, we're doing a flooring project here at home, and I'm having to measure a lot of boards and different stuff. And I could swipe down a control center, I could click calculator, I could open up calculator, I could do my math, but I could also just swipe down, type a couple numbers, see the result, and get back to work. So if you're looking for a quick way to get to the calculator functionality on your iPhone or iPad, just swipe down, type it in search, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I knew at some point, but I didn't realize that was available on iOS. I use it on my laptop I mean, all the time. I just open up the Spotlight with my little keyboard shortcut, type in quick calculations, and have it instead of opening the calculator app. But yes, that is very helpful on the phone instead of trying to remember where my calculator app is. And, and most of the time it is just a quick calculation that you need to make. So being able to do Spotlight, man, I use Spotlight a lot, and I will be using it even more thanks to your tip.
Very good.
Our takes of the week. Every once in a while we come across these interesting stories, and this one, New York robbery crew used Apple Watch to net $500,000, feds say.
And I did not read this article, so you're going to have to explain this one to me.
Yeah, this is from the New York Post. A New York robbery crew that targeted drug runners hit the jackpot late last year, netting $500,000 in cash after tracking a targeted criminal's car with a hidden Apple Watch, new court documents show. The 7-person crew based in Hudson Valley pulled off the major score in January 2020 after their alleged leader, 30-year-old Darren Lindsay, bought an Apple Watch and linked it to his AT&T account. And so what they do, they put the watch underneath the bumper of the car of this drug runner, and then followed the guy and knew when he would have some cash, followed him to, I believe it was the hotel he was staying at, broke into the car and got $500,000 in cash. So
this is criminals attacking criminals? Is that what this is?
Yeah, yes.
And I wonder why an Apple Watch. Why didn't they use a tile tracker or some of these other trackers?
Well, it had the cell service on this one. So this was January 2020 before you had...
I see.
So they used the Apple Watch. It kind of goes along with the whole thing of people being worried about people putting air tags on their stuff and everything. But
right. Yeah, so if it has cellular service, you've got up-to-date information about where it is.
And you know exactly where it is. So he linked it to his account, put it under the bumper. I mean, this is straight out of a movie here.
Yeah, this is Ocean's 11 type stuff.
Yeah. So they tracked the car down, and they didn't find anything. They grabbed him eventually and got the money. So
wow.
Yeah, genius there. So if that's they're, I'm sure, spending some time in jail. Both parties are spending some time in jail after this one. But
two wrongs don't make a right. That is for sure.
That is true. And another kind of straight out of a movie story. It came out, Vice.com, they do some great stories. Mm-hmm. And this one is Apple's double agent. He spent years inside the iPhone leaks and jailbreak community. He was also spying for Apple. So I'm sure somebody's buying the movie rights on this. For more than a year, an active member of a community that traded in illicitly obtained internal Apple documents and devices was also acting as an informant for the company. So it's really no surprise that this guy, that Apple would have somebody doing this undercover and kind of trying to get all the information, find out who's leaking what, where all this information's coming from, and doing that stuff. But it's an Andre Shumako, also known as YRH04E, and JVH Research Online decided to share his story because he felt that Apple took advantage of him and should have compensated him for providing the company this information. So I don't know all the details on that, but he should have been paid handsomely if he was working for Apple. So,
well, and he should have had a better code name, something like Deep Fruit or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Come on, Shimako.
Yeah. Let's make it fun at least.
I will remind people we are the most nonpartisan tech podcast on the internet, and there has been much discussion over the U.S. government's infrastructure bill that is forthcoming, and this article talks about the roughly $1 trillion with a T bipartisan infrastructure package that was approved by the Senate Tuesday, and I was a little dismayed to see that only, I think the idea was $1.9 billion with a B dollars in cybersecurity funds, which seems like a very small portion of $1 trillion to go to cybersecurity. Now this, will be going to stuff of infrastructure, all these breaches and ransomware and all that stuff to put in better security. I think that should be half of the $1 trillion going towards making sure that cyber attack prevention for these important things. And we need to put money towards this. We've talked about so many of these stories, and we've talked about how they're not paying in 2021. They're still not paying attention to this stuff. And so hopefully more and more money will be focused, although I have issues with sometimes how efficiently our government spends money. I could see a lot of this being tied up in stuff that won't make a practical difference, but hopefully we can really put some effort into this so that we don't have any major interruptions to our infrastructure moving forward.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this. I just, I don't have a lot of confidence that the money's going to do anything, and we'll be in a better place after it's all done than where we started. But we shall see.
Yes, we can only hope. In the big security and privacy story this week, our beloved T-Mobile.
Yes.
This was actually started coming out about a week ago or so, that there was a report that somebody was trying to sell around 100 million with an M customer information from T-Mobile. And now T-Mobile is currently admitting over 50 million, which, if you're any good at math, greater than 50 million can be much more than 50 million.
It could be $1 trillion.
Yes. The interesting thing on this one, so somehow somebody got access to a ton of people's data, because it was not only customers, but it looks like people that had at some point looked into getting T-Mobile service. So if they had signed up and, maybe gotten the credit check or whatever it was, the initial steps to sign up for T-Mobile. But I did receive some text messages and some emails from T-Mobile saying that I was probably part of this. So that here's a quote: "We previously reported information from approximately 7.8 million current T-Mobile postpaid customer accounts that included first and last names, date of birth, social security number, and driver's license ID information was compromised. Additionally, we have since identified another 5.3 million current postpaid customer accounts, and it includes some IMEI numbers." Just
what were they doing? So here I respond. I got the same text, and I responded. And I says, "I want $1,000 because of your carelessness." I should have said more, but I was angry. I knew I'd be getting this text, and I got it. And they actually replied and said, "Hi, thanks for waiting. We deeply apologize for your delay, blah, 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 blah. We'll be with you in a few minutes," or whatever. And the person replied, "I understand your frustration, and our primary concern is your account security. Let's talk about what we can do right now to increase your security." And so it goes on about this stuff. And so far we have no evidence that your credit card information was compromised, but we recommend registering for McAfee ID protection. No, thank you.
Yes.
So anyway, just a bunch of bunk. But it's like, I don't want compensated by some sketchy security thing that's not going to work or do anything. They need to be responsible. This is not the largest breach, but the type of information is the most sensitive. Like, I've never been involved in a breach where they've said, your social security number, your address, and your phone number have been leaked out to the world.
This one is tough, and it's like, well, the credit card, that's one of the easiest things. You can't take back your social security number, and I heard a good discussion on another podcast where there needs to be multiple layer, so much in the United States is tied to your social security number, and it's such an important thing for so many aspects of life that somehow we need to have different tiers where stuff could be done without having to give your social security number. And I believe T-Mobile's giving you, it says here, 2 years of free identity protection services with McAfee's ID theft protection service, which I don't want that. They need to be, like you're saying, they need to be held accountable for this stuff. It is getting bad, and they say it was a sophisticated, high-end cyber attack, and it's like, well, those happen all the time. What were you doing to protect us?
Yep.
But It's a bummer when it hits close to home with the service we have and that we're affected by, but we just see more and more of these, and my data is out there now, and what can I do about it? One thing I did hear recommended, I think from Leo Laporte, was they were talking about one good thing you can do is to freeze your credit, which I don't think I've ever done, and I probably should do. It is required that each of the major credit agencies or whatever, that you can do it for free. I don't know how easy it is these days. I know it's easier, but freezing your credit and then just paying attention to stuff, because hopefully they won't come for you, but they might.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm replying another text right now explaining how frustrated I am.
Yes. Well, let's cleanse our palate a bit with our bonus odd take of the week. This is one that you found, and it's a very interesting. We know there's all these satellites out there that are taking pictures. We've got Google Maps. We've got all these different things. But this is from NASA.gov and their Landsat project. And it is one of those nearly endless scrolling pages where they break down how their Landsat project works, and some of the people that are using it, using the information over time of all these consistent satellite pictures to see how land is changing, how land use is changing. So, farmers, scientists, urban planners, flood mappers, fire mappers, disaster responders, all these different people. So it goes through and looks at this data over time, and you can see how our world is changing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they hit a milestone of 50 years of having this satellite imagery, and so they're doing this big celebration and showing the information. And so if you're interested in climate change, deforestation, cities getting bigger or smaller, agriculture, glaciers, those type of things, you can look at the Landsat images and see how they've changed over time, for good or for ill. Most of the stuff is bad, as is reported in the news, but there are some good things too. I can't remember. I think it was somewhere in India or Pakistan. One guy reforested an entire area with like 1 million trees over the past 20 years or something. And so that would be something you could look at and go, oh man, there are more trees now than there were before. Deserts evolve and change over time, and you can look to see how the Sahara Desert has moved or changed or grown in size or decreased in size in certain areas. And so it's just really fascinating to get a bird's eye view of planet Earth over 50 years.
Yes, and it looks like they're on Landsat version 9 is what's currently capturing all this, and it has the land imager, and then it also does the thermal energy so that they can really capture some accurate data. So very cool.
Well, now I'm confused why you just can't see everything at one time, since the Earth is flat. Don't they just have one camera pointing down from the top?
Yeah, it's like everything? A reverse Hubble telescope. You go up high enough, Earth is flat, and you just get one image.
You see everything
constantly, and we could have live Google Maps.
And if you go on the other side, it's turtles all the way down. All the way down.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, it is time, not for turtles, but our picks of the week. Maybe you picked turtles this week.
Well, another week, maybe I will. This week, though, my good friend Dave and I, yet another Dave, went disc golfing a few weeks ago, and I kind of caught the bug. I was like, you know what? This is something that I think I can do. Yeah. You just kind of walk around. There's no running involved. It is exercise.
Yeah.
But then I don't have to have a lot of equipment like golf, where you have to get expensive clubs, and then you've got to spend half a day walking around this giant course. No, you can do Frisbee Golf, or more appropriately named disc golf. I believe Frisbee is a trademark of the Frisbee Corporation or whatever. So disc golf. And I picked up a set of Innova golf discs, flying discs, and it comes with a putter, a mid-range, and then a driver. Yes, they share the same names as golf clubs, and they do work. So, some are designed to fly shorter distances, and with more control, and others go farther, probably with the trade-off of less control. But I understand that you also are a disc golf fan and have played quite a bit in the past. So what do you think of my pick of the week this week?
Yeah, no, I used to, and with friend of the show, Mike Peterson, we used to play prior to kids and prior to marriage. We used to play an incredible amount of disc golf because it is a great sport. You could go out after work. You usually don't have to pay. There's some courses where you pay $5 or have to pay parking at a state park or whatever, but it's very reasonably priced. And for somebody that is just starting out, or even, this set that you bought will last you a good amount of time. I have a special bag with 12 discs, but I think I was telling you there's probably only 3 or 4 that I ever use. But there's a pro tour. It's a great sport. It's grown a lot. You can go online and try to find local courses. I know here in Tualatin, there's a couple tiny courses at some local churches, and then you drive 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes, there's probably a dozen different courses, and it's really grown because it's very easy. You put in some sort of tee area, and it varies by place, whether it's just a little stake in the ground that tells you, hey, here's where you throw from, or some have huge cement pads, and then you buy these metal baskets. But it is a great sport. It's a very approachable recreational sport, which gives you some purpose to get out and get some fresh air.
Approachable and inexpensive. This set of 3 very high quality discs cost about $17.
Yes.
And they will last my entire life.
Yes.
I will never have to buy another set unless I lose them, of course.
That I was just going to say, number one reason for having to buy more discs is because you lose them, depending which course you play. And I've played some more pro level courses. I'm not pro level, but these huge 500-foot, 600-foot holes where there's forest on either side. And I might even still have some marks on my leg from about a month ago when I played and had to go into some thorny areas to retrieve a disc. But it's a great sport, and it's family friendly. It's just a great sport.
Yeah.
And getting a kit like this on Amazon, you'll be set.
Yeah, so get out there and not only tech better, but exercise and play games better, I suppose.
Yes. Well, my pick of the week this week is kind of an interesting one. It's more to motivate myself to utilize it more. And I know we've talked about this several times, and it might have been a previous pick of the week. But using your phone or your watch or your device for Apple Pay and Google Pay, the tap to pay stuff. I'm even bad with my credit card. If I'm at the store, I pull out my wallet, I pull out the card, and I'll put it in the chip reader when I can do the tap. I think it was Rich DeMiro on the Rich on Tech podcast. He was talking about how often he uses it, and I've heard other people talking about on my iPhone. I've got my various credit cards and my debit cards set up on there. I've got my Apple credit card. I've got Apple Cash, where I can use all these things, and I've always got my phone with me just to tap and pay, and the abilities to send payments. It has gotten so much better over the years. It's kind of like one of those things like Siri. If you used Siri 6 years ago and haven't used it since, it's gotten better, I promise.
Yeah. It's not as good as Alexa. I found out in my car when I asked to play music, I have to use the Alexa device versus Siri. She still gets it wrong. But it is getting better. You are correct. I practically use my iPhone to pay for stuff almost all the time. I do it at Walmart. You have to do it through their app, of course, with Walmart Pay. But at Target, other stores, Home Depot, for some reason, does not have contactless payment. It just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It's like there's some of these stores, it's just like, what, you're a big box major retailer, and you're like the only ones on the planet who don't do this. So it's catching on, and it is very handy just to pull my phone out, click, tap the thing, stick it back in my pocket. I'm out the door. And like with Walmart Pay, for example, it puts the receipt in the app, so I don't even have to mess with the receipt. I wish more of the services did that, but
no. And there's some added security to doing it that way. It's harder for a card skimmer and all that stuff. So I wanted to make it a pick of the week so that I could remind myself, put it in audio commitment that I'm going to start using it more, because I forget about it, and I'm such in the habit of, there's some places like you're saying where you still need your cards, but not having having to carry, I think I've got 4 different credit cards at least in my wallet. And if I can at least get one of those out to thin my wallet out a little bit.
Yep.
But it is, most places will take it. And especially as we do more of they don't take cash and all of this stuff. I'm committing to using it more. And I want to encourage our listeners to commit to using it more, because it really works well. And even getting better about using my watch for it, where then I don't even have to take my phone out. I just flick my wrist in the general direction.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think even the Google Pay works with their Google Watches and stuff as well. So, the Google one is, I don't use a Google device regularly, but it's very similar. Yeah.
Yes. Well, with that, we have talked tech at you long enough. We are coming up on our 300th episode, which boggles my mind in a couple weeks here, and we're working on some special things for that. But thank you so much for listening. I was thinking, if each one of you listeners told one more person and helped them get subscribed to our podcast, we would double our numbers.
I think that's how math works.
Yes. And then if they all told, the multi-level marketing here, we need multi-level marketing.
Sounds familiar.
You're downstream. We will reward you for your downstream. But thank you for sharing it with friends, and thanks for asking questions. And get on the Facebook group and post some tips or some questions, all that stuff. It's great to interact and use the hive mind so that we can all get out there and tech better.
That's so weird. Wait. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I thought it would blur the background, not my background. Now I don't know what picture to pick. Here, we're going to be moody. I'm in a forest. Deal with it.